Alrighty, you YouTube nerds, here it is, the Hike X5 throttle controller, or as they call it, high performance controller. Now the X5 is actually the, I guess you could call it a level 1 from Hike. So they have the X5, they have the X5, the X9, and the XS. The XS being the top of the line, X9 being kind of in the mid-range model, and the X5 being, I guess, the introductory model. I chose the X5 for two reasons. Because it has a push button setup instead of the dial setup that I had with my JMS Pedal Max in my other RAM. I went with the X5 because it only has 3 modes, which makes it way less confusing and way easier to use, in my opinion, especially when you're using these buttons instead of a dial. I would have actually personally liked to see a couple of dials instead of the push buttons, but of course that's personal preference. But at least with this, it's 3 modes. Do I even have my keys? Let's see if I can grab my keys. There we go. So I hooked this up probably about a week ago. Wait for the chime. All right. God damn it. Okay. So I hooked it up about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, about a week ago. And I ran through all 3 modes. And I can tell you that it did very well. It did deliver as promised as far as better throttle response, a higher voltage when you set it to a higher setting. And we got off, sport, Hike It, which is the most extreme version of a throttle controller, throttle response that you could possibly want. I could not go over Hike It number level 3, because after level 3, for me personally, for this RAM that I have a 392 axle ratio in this with the Hemi. So because of that setup, anything higher than 3 was just unusable. It was just ridiculous. But of course, if you have, let's say, a RAM with a V6, or even a RAM that has the Hemi but you have the 321 axle ratio, a throttle controller is definitely a fantastic investment, especially when you don't have to spend a crap ton of money. Like I said before, I had a JMS Pedal Max in my other RAM that had the Hemi but had the 321 axle, and it was a requirement to have a throttle controller. The throttle was spongy and not responsive at all. In this case, in my RAM now with a 392 axle ratio, it is already really responsive. But sometimes you want a little extra oomph when you push that gas pedal down. Not only that, because I actually have a 4-wheel drive RAM, and I actually go off-roading. So anyway, as far as the modes, you got, off, sport, Hike It, eco. Eco is the other reason I went with this as opposed to many other options. Because I wanted the ability to have reduced throttle response compared to stock, for when I actually go off-roading, and if I have to mash the throttle real quick after a stop, while maybe climbing an obstacle on a trail. I didn't want it to try to catapult me forward and spin the hell out of the tires. So that was my main reason for wanting an eco mode. So as you can see, I personally had it mounted with, it comes with the M3 adhesive tape. Holds really well. I don't even think it budges. So this is my personal preference as far as where the location of where to put it. I have the wire mounted, down here. Surprisingly, it does not get in the way of the ignition. And I actually ran the wire between the dash, between the dash, and the steering portion. And of course, I got the module hooked up underneath. The big thing about the 4th gen RAMs here is my only complaint when installing this on a 4th gen RAM is that there is hardly any place to mount the controller module underneath, above where all the pedals are down there. Because in my 5th gen RAM, there were options all over the place for being able to zip tie the module and just keeping it secure out of the way. Although I haven't had any problems here, I've kind of zip tied the wires together, so even though the module's hanging, it doesn't get in the way at all. So not really a problem. It's just something that I wanted to point out. The last thing I wanted to show you is just the box that the Heike comes in. All right. The reason I'm showing you the box is that if you look carefully, you don't see anything that says made in China. You see lifetime warranty. And you've got a quick layout of your stock, sport, hike it, and eco throttle curves. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I needed to mention. So this might be confusing for some. Eco mode. When you're in eco mode, level 1 is the most responsive. And the funny thing is that there was a Hike It rep on Facebook that said level 1 was going to be the least responsive. That is not true. It is actually the opposite, at least as far as my truck is concerned. So level 1 actually brings you a little closer to stock. So the higher you go in eco mode, the less responsive you are, which to me actually that makes sense. It really does. So anyway, Christmas deal. I ended up spending $19. They still gave me free shipping. Like I said, that was a Christmas deal. I could have easily gotten the XS one, which is their top of the line one, which actually had a dial, but it also had 2, 3, 4, like 5 or 6 different buttons on top of the dial, or around, in correlation with it. Anyway, I think it was kind of over redundant for me. I wanted it as simple as possible, which is the reason why I originally chose the JMS Pedal Max for my last truck. But if you're not on a budget, or you're not worried about the money you're spending, or you want something that's American made, I highly recommend the JMS Pedal Max. If you're off-roading and you want that reduced throttle response as well, the JMS Pedal Max Terrain is it's an excellent throttle controller. But Hike It, so far from what I've seen and what I've read and how it's performed, I think Hike It should definitely be on your list. If nothing else, if no other reason, at least because it's a lot cheaper. Because the JMS Pedal Max, at least the Pedal Max Terrain, is going for about $300. Without the sale, you're looking at $159 for this, I think it was. So overall, really great throttle response controller. And especially with a lifetime warranty, you can't really go wrong. So obviously I can't demo it other than what I've shown you, because there's too many people that go around and say, hey, let's drive my truck or my car, and I'm going to turn this throttle response controller or throttle controller on, and you're going to see the difference. Well, no, dude, it's a feel thing. You can't demo a vehicle. That's like saying, watch how great this gas pedal feels. That doesn't make sense, right? So you can't really demo a throttle controller on a video. It has to be done in person. You have to experience it for yourself. The best we can do for a practical video demo is go through the modes and talk about each one, which is exactly what I did. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything else to really cover on the throttle controller. Just overall, it is a fantastic alternative to an American-made JMS Pedal Max. It's not made in China. It works. Lifetime warranty for about half the price of what I paid for a JMS Pedal Max. Fantastic throttle controller so far. If anything changes, I will update the review. I will leave additional comments. But for now, I have nothing but good things to say, except for the fact that I wish there was 2 dials instead of push button only. But that's nitpicking. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, drop a comment. I'll do my best to answer. Until next time.